Hey, so this is what I'm working on today. This is a 2008 Ford F-150. It's got the 4.6 liter V8 in it, not the 5.4 that had so many problems with the cam phasers. This 4.6 is a good engine. They put it in just about everything from Crown Vics to Mustangs and pickups, vans, and everything in between. I've personally owned one just like this for about 11 years, never had any issues with it. I just sold it and it still runs. So saw this one come up on the block and I picked it up. It's got 251,000 miles on it. When I got this vehicle in, it was running when it got off of the transport trailer. I could smell some oil. There's no oil dripping from underneath the truck anywhere. I've looked under there. I don't see any or smell any oil coming out of the exhaust pipe. So I've narrowed it down to this area here. I believe that's a PVC valve that's probably bad. This looks like an original oil cap too. I'm going to go ahead and replace this oil cap because they have this little O-ring on there. This one still looks pretty good, but I can kind of see a little bit of just debris and stuff built up on top of that. So just to make sure that that's not my leak, I'm going to go ahead and replace that too. And it did have a little moisture in the cap. Now that's not, the oil doesn't look like that. That's just moisture in the cap, and that'll happen from the vehicle just sitting up. It gets moisture in there. When it heats up, it condensates on the top of the cap. So that's sometimes a good indication to go ahead and replace that cap and get that ring, that O-ring working better again. But I believe most of the problem is going to be from this PCV valve here. And this is the heated one. See on the back side, it's got that little electrical connector on there. These are a little spendy for an OEM one. They're about $89 from the parts store, so I'm going to order one off of Amazon for $29. It had some pretty good reviews, so I think it should be okay. Because I do see some oil kind of puddling around in here, right down in there. So I think it's just it's spitting oil from this cap and from that PCV valve. So I've got both of those on order. Cap was only like 12 bucks. So we'll do that, get those changed out, and hopefully that'll fix that issue, because I don't see any on the other side. A little dirty, but it's dry as a bone over here. There's no oil over here. There's no oil underneath the truck. I don't see any oil anywhere else. So that's the only place that I see any. So I had a dead battery again in this truck. I've had a battery die on it a couple of times now, so I wanted to show you this. I came up under the hood, and first thing I noticed is these cables are loose, and this very high quality battery cable seems to be beat up a little bit. Yeah, so that's probably not kosher. So we're gonna go ahead and fix that. I'll put a new end on it, and I'll clean this end up over here. It looks like it's got some corrosion on it. Let's see. They did not stamp the date on this battery, so I don't know. This is a Super Start Economy from O'Reilly's, most likely, I guess. We'll go ahead and see if we can charge this thing up. Wait a minute, here's the date. So 7/23. So it's not that old. We'll go ahead and try to charge it up and see if it holds a charge. We'll run a test on it. Fix these cables, and we'll put it back on there and see how it holds up over time. The inside of the engine bay, boy, that little condenser has seen better days, but it does still cool, so it is what it is. We got the truck in. The first thing I noticed is some oil splatter in this area. You can see compared to back here, it's like you can see kind of the oil line right there, and it's kind of oily all the way up through here. I think this PCV valve was leaking, so I went ahead and replaced it. I put a new oil cap on it also because that O-ring was just flattened out. Looked terrible. I went ahead and put a new one on there. I had to order that. That is a heated PCV valve. I've never seen one of those before. See that little connector off the back of it? So that little bugger was cheap. And yeah, thanks, Ford. So went ahead and fixed that. Put a new cap on it. We'll see if that holds up. I'll clean all that off of there, try to get some of this grime off the inside of the engine bay. I do not like cleaning engines because it just causes problems. Stuff gets wet, even if you're careful. But I'll probably clean this up just a little bit, make it look a little better anyway. Alright, so I didn't get it all on video. I had a customer come up I had to deal with, and I just lost my video. But I had to change out the ABS sensor on this truck, just the front right wheel sensor was showing up. It was throwing a code. I mean, looks pretty rough. We just popped a new one on there. I bought 2 new ones off of Amazon for like 26 bucks. So it's only calling for this code, so I'm only going to change the one on this side. I've already got the lug nuts back on there, tightened up and everything. So we're just going to put the cap back on and find the lineup. If you're ever wondering how to put these Ford caps back on, look for that little indicator right there and you see the hole. I'm going to show you where it goes. Just get it lined up. Pop it on. Hard to do with one hand. Alright, so we got that issue resolved. And I have some help. Bandit, what are you doing? He doesn't usually get in cars with me when I'm working on cars. It's usually Lily the gray cat. So, next thing I'm going to do now that I've got it vacuumed, I mean, it come out pretty good, I guess. I've got to shampoo the truck, so I'm not really worried about getting all of every little thing out of there, but I tried to vacuum it, you know, as best I could. I got all the loose stuff that I could get. So before we shampoo the carpet and try to get these stains out of the seats and everything, the first thing I'm going to do is use some degreaser. I'm using Super Clean. I've cut it in half. I could really cut it down some more, but this truck is so dirty. We're just going to do it that way. I'm going to start right here with the door, and I'm going to work my way all the way around. I'm going to hit all the hard surfaces, and that means the cat's going to have to get out of the way. And once I get done hitting all the hard surfaces, I'll go back and kind of detail all the little nooks and crannies as best I can. I'm not trying to build a show car here. This is just a dirty work truck. I'm just trying to get it as clean as I can without spending entirely too much time on it. But I will try to clean like in the air vents and stuff and just make it look presentable as best I can for a 250,000 mile truck without getting crazy. I'm going to try to get the steering wheel clean before we put a new cover on it. And then we'll go from there. Now, if I do keep this truck long enough that I have to pull the heater core out of it and replace it, I have to pull the dash out and everything, it'll give me access to get some more stuff clean back there that I can't really get to right away. But I want the truck to be as clean as possible if I do that, because you have to get intimate with that floor and these seats. And this thing is filthy right now, so I'm trying to get as much of it as possible, you know, without going too far overboard. So I'm going to start cleaning right here. I'll come back to you and kind of show you what this door panel looks like once I get done cleaning it. All I do to clean these is I take a bucket of hot water, my degreaser, and I'm careful around the switches. I'll usually spray onto a rag or something and then wipe it around there instead of spraying directly on those surfaces. But for the other parts, like right here, get my stream going right here, I'll just spray right onto it. You have to be careful with degreaser, because if you like leave splatter, you'll see all the little wet marks. It'll get really clean right here where it's wet, and then it won't up underneath, so it'll kind of like look like it's etched into the surface. I'll leave some right here so I can kind of show you what I'm talking about, but you want to make sure you cover the whole thing evenly so you don't get that that pattern there. And like I said, I'm going to try to be careful around the door switches and all, because I don't want to get those wet and mess it up. At least I have the battery unhooked right now, so hopefully I won't have to worry about any electronics. And it's going to be a minute before I crank this truck again anyway. So I'll come back and show you what that looks like, and we'll keep going forward. Alright, so I've gotten everything vacuumed out, except where the cat got in the car again. So I'm going to go over it now with the shampooer. I use a Mighty HP60, and I'm just going to use mainly some degreaser on this one because, well, I'm out of carpet cleaner, and I really think it needs more degreaser in this one than carpet cleaner, just based on the amount of funk that's in it. So there's some spots I'm going to go ahead and pre-treat with some tough stuff. This is really good stuff. If you let it sit for about 30 seconds, it'll bring most of the junk to the top, and then you can just extract it off of there. I don't use any soap in the extractor. It's just hot water, and I do have the heater preheating right now. So this is where the heater core was leaking at some point. Like I said, they put some stop leak in there. I'm guessing they got it to stop leaking. I really don't know. It's not wet, it's just where it was wet before. So I took the seal plate off of the rocker panel here, and I've got them laying back there. So I'm going to clean all the way down here as far as I can. I'm going to try not to get the wires too wet. I don't know if there's anything chipped or exposed, but we don't need any shorts. Luckily, I have got the battery unhooked anyway, so we're just going to be careful with that. But you can see how dirty this carpet is. So we're just going to go ahead and treat that as best we can. Back seat's pretty dirty too. Seats are dirty. And I'm going to go around to the other side and get started. If you do happen to be using one of these extractors, it's very important that you purge the water through the line before you turn the heat on. Last time I tried to use this, I just slipped my mind, and I hydro-locked the thing for like 2 hours. You have to let it cool down. I'm running this through until I see the steam start coming out. I know I've got hot water coming through, and it should be good to go at this point. So just a little tip on these extractors here: get the biggest one you can get for the money. I spent like $1,800 on this thing, and I still feel like I should have got an even bigger one because it is pretty powerful, but I am not all that happy with the suction on it. It does leave a lot of water behind, and if you don't get all that water behind, it smells really bad. So a lot of times I have to go back a second time after it's dried and just do a quick rinse. But that's just my experience. So we're going to get started here. I'm going to work on some of these heavy spots. I'm going to pre-treat like this little area here. And then I'm going to come down here and pre-treat some of these areas in the carpet. This side isn't so bad. It did have that WeatherTech liner in there, so that protected a lot of it. But I'm just going to go ahead and get some of these dark spots right here where the floor mat doesn't go all the way up. Is always dirty on these trucks. And then right around where the little holder is right there. And right here where everything falls from the cup holders and the change drawers and all that good stuff. And then of course down here by the foot. This one isn't actually that bad by the pedal, because I guess that that weather liner must have been in there for a while, because carpet's still pretty good shape. All right, I'm gonna let this pre-soak for a little while, and then I'm gonna go ahead and get started on it. And I won't bother you guys with the full details. We'll just do a little time-lapse video, and I'll show you some before and after photos. about done with the driver's side. It came pretty clean. There's a few little spots that, well, of course, didn't come up, but it looks pretty good. Got the console as clean as I can get it. I don't know how much of this is going to come back once it really dries, but it's pretty clean. I mean, it's probably a 7 out of 10, I would say. Alright, so I'm going to touch up some of these little scratches right here best I can. And as you can see, I'm just adding some paint touch-up. We worked on this little scratch on the side here, and there was a few other scratches around the vehicle. Touched up some paint chips on the front. Uh, Started getting cloudy, then we got some bad weather that night. You can see, the clouds in the pictures here. It's starting to get dark, so I had to stop after washing the truck. Yeah, I got it all washed down. And that night I posted it on Facebook. Somebody said they wanted it. The lady came the next day, test drove it, and she bought it. So this truck is already sold. On to the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe to our channel.